Madden 23 tries. I'll give it that. EA Sports definitely wanted to show its community that it took a lot of the concerns from the past few years, both on and off the field, and made improvements in a number of areas. And after the response to both Madden 21 and 22, they kinda had to. Those games felt like step backs in both modes and gameplay. This year, it feels like a move to make amends with a community that feels both unheard and abandoned in a lot of ways. But is it enough to actually turn the tides around for the Madden franchise?
Brady now on first down. And break, the tight end's got it. And in for the Buccaneers touchdown.
The big new gameplay feature for Madden 23 is branded as Field Sense. This is a system that brings a number of new changes on the field, for current-gen console players at least. If you're on PC or last-gen systems, you'll still have the same gameplay you've had for years, so there's really nothing to talk about there. This Field Sense system introduces the ability to hit everything and see different animations play out no matter where the ball handler and defenders are. And it's quite amazing to witness, actually. And seeing the different ways that ball carriers fall to the ground depending on where that second defender came from truly shows what current-gen gaming is all about when it comes to animations and physics. Field Sense also introduces a new skill-based passing system. Like with target passing in Madden 18, Madden has introduced another mechanic that attempts to give those willing to try it a different and advantageous way to pass the ball with Madden 23. I'm truly interested in the lasting power of this, as it's fun to experiment with and see just how far away from the receiver you can throw a pass. But again, I wonder how many people will actually use this or stay with the classic passing, as they may find this too hard to consistently use past the first month of the game's cycle. Now, the player movement is really great on the field. The new 360 cuts that you're able to perform really opens up the open field game, and I've had a blast making hard cuts on a dime with agile players against aggressive defenders. Previous years, I've found it harder to make these types of moves consistently and get tackled with ease. But holding the left trigger while you cut definitely opened up more creativity in the open field for the average gamer to make highlight reel plays. And ball physics, in my short time with the game, I do have to give a shout out to, as it removes some of the ridiculous in-traffic catches that would see the ball warp through defenders, but it also creates incredible catches or interceptions because of the ball getting dislodged in traffic. Now let's talk a bit more about the passing system. In the passing game, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you aren't familiar with route combinations and are picking plays at random, you're going to struggle, as the learning curve is a bit high because of the obstacles somebody just beginning to play the game will face. If a defender is barreling down on you, you're either subjected to being sucked into a sack when you thought you had more time, or your quarterback's accuracy takes a noticeable hit when you throw because of the pressure, as passes will land in random spots sometimes right in the defender's path to get intercepted, which does add another layer to a potential problem that I'll go over. Now, the most in-your-face thing about Madden 23 after playing even just one game is how effective the pass rush is at getting to the quarterback. The game completely eliminates users dropping super deep, which is good, because outside rushers will get after the quarterback instantly, and even if you try to emulate what a quarterback would do, the game will not let you sit in the pocket forever and will hold close to the average time to throw a quarterback has in the NFL, unless if your offensive line isn't up to par. But something that I do hope is addressed is how well the D-line disengages against running quarterbacks, limiting their effectiveness as well. Now, gamers not used to just how fast real quarterbacks have to and do get rid of the ball will have a huge problem with how effective the pass rush is. So I'm curious if this will get patched in an upcoming update to lessen the furiousness of the pass rush before they drive many of the gamers away who just want to play backyard football with their favorite quarterback. Now, man defense is probably going to be the name of the game as it currently stands. Now, don't get me wrong, obvious mismatches will still be exploited, but because of the aggressiveness of defenders in both man and zone, you're going to really need to know your angles and when to throw at the right time to consistently succeed against man defense. Now, this also means that because of how effective man defense is, you're going to get pressured a lot, and you might find yourself becoming frustrated quickly if you aren't aware of how to beat man defense right away with the pressure that'll surely be coming in your face. For zone, well, it's not as effective as man defense, but the aggression of the defenders, if the ball is in striking distance, will have you thinking twice if you want to fit that ball into that corner route or throw it into the flats if you see a cornerback lurking. And because of the effective pass rush, zone defense can actually thrive, but also has more room to be exploited by common zone beaters and such if you get enough time to execute properly. Moving on to the running game, you truly have to get the numbers advantage to have consistent success on the ground, because the defenders will block shed consistently and meet you behind or at the line consistently enough if you don't have the slightest idea of where you're going, as the game won't hand you 5-yard gains on any consistent level anymore. And that's a good thing, because I'd rather it up to the gamer to find the consistent 4 to 5 yard run plays than up to the defense to find the run defense to avoid running over if their defensive structure is already sound. And I believe we finally found that here. As far as user controlling defenders, I haven't had any Superman type interceptions where I shouldn't even have gotten a finger on the ball. You have to know your angles well to make plays on the football. And the game doesn't even have defenders making plays on the ball intended 15 to 20 yards deeper downfield. And even if you're on the immediate area, if you're not in the path of the ball, you're not going to make a play on it at all, which is something that we haven't seen from a Madden game in God knows how long.
I'm ready for my moment. I'm ready to be a star.
Now let's talk about game modes, starting with the biggest mode everybody wants to know about: franchise. When you start up a franchise, the menus are pretty much the same besides a slightly updated first page and color scheme. But besides that, the biggest overhaul to franchise mode that you'll feel throughout everything you do off the field is player motivation. This will shape who wants to re-sign with your team, and even deciding if they want to go to your team in the first place through the brand new free agency hub. Sometimes they could be all about the money. Some players you're just not going to get because of where you're located. It's an interesting dynamic added to the mix instead of all of the best players going to who offers the most money. And I love that a player's 3 motivations for choosing a team can even change over time depending how things go. Now, other new franchise mode additions like player tag descriptors help fix some of the wonky trades that you'll find in franchise mode. There are now active negotiations in free agency, which limits the amount of offers you're able to send out to players during the beginning stages of free agency, which aims to keep the top guys from all going to 2 to 3 teams and makes you really prioritize who you're going to attack first. And for all you capologists out there, being able to create custom contracts with different preset structures is a dream come true, allowing you to structure your cap in a way where you're not getting hit all in the same season, and you're even able to roll over your cap space to the next year to time up when you're finally going to spend it like crazy in free agency, all of which is very exciting. Of course, there are still some issues with free agency and contracts, as it still feels a bit too easy to re-sign everyone and have a team full of all-pro players quicker than the average rebuild effort. Now, for those of us that like to simulate seasons and check on stats, they do seem to be a bit out of whack slightly. 18 guys in real life had 200 or more carries in the NFL, where in one simulation I counted almost 30, and it's always been in the high 20s. And I'm not even going to count the crazy amount of 1,000-yard receivers that simulating a season spits out. Multiple teams had 3 guys break 1,000 yards receiving, and the Bucs had 4 of them once. I truly hope for a day where, based on league trends and such, we can get an amazing simulation engine right out of the box without updates needed. With the game's trade logic at least, I do like how the player tags work hand in hand with the trades that you get offered and the player's team's draft picks, as I haven't seen anything crazy that directly conflicted with the team's position so far. Oh, and Madden 23 finally adds a solid trade finder, so that's pretty cool. Obviously though, there are some annoyances, as it's not a perfect mode. One of the biggest, for me anyway, is the lack of improvements to relocation options. Despite being promised to players by EA Sports itself 2 years ago, relocation options remain the exact same. From locations, to nicknames, to jerseys, to stadiums, there's nothing new here. Hell, even trying to bring the NFL back to Oakland or St. Louis allows you absolutely nothing when it comes to branding. You have to carry over the same nickname and the same branding that you had from whatever city you're moving from. This is something that fans continued to ask for, were promised was going to be updated, and yet it remains untouched. Again, it was specifically mentioned as something being improved all the way back in 2020. Now, another frustration is the max contract still being 7 years. As NFL contracts continue to get to unheard of levels, Madden remains behind in the ability to offer these massive deals like what Pat Mahomes got from Kansas City. If Madden is going to remain the exclusive sim on the market, it needs to improve contract offering mechanics to allow these extra long-term deals to be made. Moving on to other modes. Ultimate Team is back again as the same microtransaction-filled mode that it's always been. While there are options to grind it out solo without spending money, it's pushed so much that you feel like you have to spend extra cash just to even enjoy the mode. Load into any game, pushes for Ultimate Team. Quit a game and head back to the main menu? How about some MUT packs? As with everything Ultimate Team or any collectible card game modes in full-price AAA games, I'd just avoid it and play something else. It's a mode that I'll never get into and I'll never have anything positive to say about. A mode where I do have positive things to say about for the first time since its implementation is Face of the Franchise. The mode returns this year in Madden 23 with a new addition to the position listings, cornerback, to go along with quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and linebackers. Creating your player, though, results in the same limited customization suite that's been around for years. It's arguably, and actually without arguing, the most bare-bones player creator in any of the major sports titles, and it's getting quite embarrassing to see the same face selections and other options year over year. Within the mode, though, it's far less in-your-face campy as it has been, which is nice. There are a lot fewer cutscenes this time around, and in their place is a system of selecting what you'll do, making your upgrades, and playing the games. Player lock is also finally a feature in the mode, as you'll just focus on your performance on the field rather than worrying about the whole team control. It actually gives you a sense of connection to the player on the field that hasn't been there in prior versions. Of course, it's not as deep as the career modes in NBA 2K, MLB The Show, or even NHL, but it's 100% better than it has been, that's for sure. Hopefully, EA Sports uses what's good here as the foundation for adding a number of new features moving forward, especially with college football on the horizon and a hopeful link between the two coming.
Nice job there. Hold it. Oh, that's into double coverage and intercepted.
The overall Madden 23 presentation is arguably the most lackluster area of the game. On the positive side, player and coach models received a nice upgrade this year and do look better than ever. But that's really where the positives with the presentation of the game end. Brandon Gaudin and Charles Davis return yet again as the commentary team, full of the same repeated lines as years past. Sure, there are some new lines in the game, especially during franchise mode, but most are what you've heard for years now, with the same lack of emotion and feel that we've gotten used to hearing when playing. Even the crowd sounds lack the same emotion that you'd find in an actual NFL stadium on game day. The score bug and in-game overlays are okay, but it would be nice to finally have an official broadcast branding within the game. Also, the halftime show sees absolutely no changes from the past few Maddens.
They come in the midst of a pretty bad stretch here, losers of 5 straight.
The last thing that anyone wants to hear from a Madden 23 review is that the game is a, quote, step in the right direction. Of course, you're gonna see and hear that from so many other reviews, because the game does have some noticeable improvements in areas like franchise mode and gameplay. But to be honest, it's still not where games should be in 2022. Ultimate Team, as always, still feels like a scam to me, and modes like Superstar KO and the Yard are just there. The new passing mechanics are tough to master, and that makes it much more fun for sure, and some of the other gameplay changes and mechanics add more of a new feel to it all on the field. There's still plenty missing, however, that'll certainly stop longtime players from coming back to the game after the newness of it wears off. But that said, if you have stayed away from the series for the last few years, Madden 23 may very well be the game worth picking up to get you back into the franchise. Because at the end of the day, it isn't a bad game. For more Madden 23 and sports gaming content daily, be sure to subscribe to Sports Gamers Online and hit that bell to be notified whenever a new video goes live. And as always, visit our website at sportsgamersonline.com.